Welcome to the consequences of your own choices. Meet the American farmer. Rugged individualist, free market capitalist, government is the problem patriot. Until their soybeans start rotting and their profit margins disappear. Then suddenly it's save American agriculture. And where's our bailout? They voted for policies that would destroy their own markets, deport their workforce, and spike their costs through tariffs. Now they're standing outside government offices with their hands out, wondering why China stopped buying their crops and why there's nobody left to harvest them. This isn't tragedy. This is arithmetic. And today we're watching people learn that economics doesn't care about your politics. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's dive into the FAFO Chronicles.
How difficult is it to be a soybean farmer right now?
Well, we depend on the Chinese market. And the reason we depend so much on this market is China consumes 61% of soybeans produced worldwide. The rest of the world is 39%. Of the soybeans that American farmers produce, 25% currently have been going to China. And right now, we have zero sold for this crop that's starting to be harvested right now.
So the people who say no handouts just lined up for a handout. Now tell me why farmers in Arkansas are standing outside with their hands out again, begging Uncle Sam for money. See, when it's regular people struggling, rent too high, groceries too ridiculous, can't afford health care, the answer is always from these people, stop complaining, stop asking for handouts, and pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Farmers in Arkansas are crying out to the feds for stimulus money like it's open mic night. And look, I get it, because times are hard everywhere. But when you plant your crops, raise your cattle, take on the risks of farming, wasn't that a personal business decision? So why is it on me and you to make sure that that decision keeps paying out? Because see, when you and I make bad decisions, government doesn't cut us a check to make it right for us. Now, let's connect the dots here a little bit. These are the same people voting for the same politicians who say government is the problem. Yet as soon as the tractors stop running and their profits dry up, government magically turns into a solution for them. Ain't that funny and ironic? The question is, do we owe farmers any help? Or do they need to practice what they preach? Figure it out. Tighten that belt. Leave taxpayers out of it.
Hold up. So when regular folks need help with rent or healthcare, it's stop asking for handouts and figure it out yourself. But when your farm business fails because of policies you voted for, suddenly it's taxpayers' responsibility to bail you out. That's some Olympic-level mental gymnastics right there. Here's the brutal reality. Farming is a business. Businesses succeed or fail based on market conditions, labor costs, and trade relationships. When you vote for politicians who promise to blow up those exact things, you're essentially voting to sabotage your own company. And let's talk about that personal responsibility these folks love to preach. Where's the personal responsibility in voting for tariffs that price your product out of international markets? Where's the accountability in supporting deportation policies when 70% of your workforce is undocumented immigrants? You made business decisions based on political emotions instead of economic reality. That's not the government's problem to fix. That's basic entrepreneurship gone wrong. The rest of us shouldn't subsidize your political mistakes.
Because last I checked, it's really not our problem to fix somebody else's game.
Like Arkansas farmers are in the find out phase of the fuck around and find out part.
We're going to lose 25 or 30% of the farmers in this country if they don't do something. It has to be done, and it's not just here. It's everywhere.
Because farmers from all over the state of Arkansas came together to have a town hall meeting with some representatives from the government, explaining their struggles and what they might need to help them. And just as a friendly reminder, during the 2024 election, the state of Arkansas went 64.2% towards President Orange Man. But let's continue with the rest of this clip because it seems like one farmer might be having a realization as to what may be causing all of these issues.
For Brown, there is something that rounds out all the issues that they are facing, the tariffs.
I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm. When you try to sell a product, okay, U.S. soybeans leaving New Orleans without the tariff to China are cheaper than Brazilian soybeans at the current market. But when you put the tariff on top of them, Brazilian beans are cheaper.
Now, I'm actually glad he's making the correlation that it has something to do with the tariffs. But I've noticed a pattern when it comes to some of these people, when it comes to the tariffs, that they never make the connection or blame towards the person that actually caused these tariffs. And I'm going to give him a major hint that it has to do with the person that won 64.2% of the vote in that state during the 2024 election.
Here we go. This farmer finally connects the dots between tariffs and his business problems. Brazilian soybeans are cheaper than American ones because of the tariffs. Basic economics 101. But notice what's missing from his analysis? Any mention of who implemented these tariffs. Arkansas went 64% for Trump. These same farmers cheered when he promised to punish China with trade wars. They thought tariffs were some magical weapon that would only hurt foreign countries. Nobody explained to them that tariffs are paid by importers, which makes American products more expensive to foreign buyers. China didn't just sit around waiting for American farmers to figure this out. They built new supply chains with Brazil, Argentina, and other countries. Those aren't temporary relationships. They're long-term contracts that have fundamentally shifted global soybean markets. So when this farmer says Brazilian beans are cheaper, what he's really saying is, the policies I voted for have permanently damaged my industry's competitiveness. But he still can't bring himself to name the architect of his own downfall.
And this Arkansas farmer seems like he has a solution for this problem.
So, how can this be fixed?
In the short term, they have no choice but to mail us a check. I don't know a farmer that likes the check program. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke.
Yep, you heard that right. He's asking for a government handout, which is socialism, which he says he doesn't like them, but during these past years, there have been lots of subsidies and checks going out for farmers, including bailouts that happened during President Orange Man's first term. Because during his first term, financial aid to farmers was about $28 billion, costing more than Navy shipbuilding, the nuclear forces, NASA, and even children's health insurance. So yeah, you guys do love to receive bailouts and handouts. All the while, you guys tell other people who need financial aid, such as single mothers with kids who need food stamps, that they should pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but for some reason you guys don't like doing it yourselves. And this is just another episode in the saga of Fuck Around and Find Out. I don't even know what episode number we're on, but yeah.
This is perfect. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. Translation: I hate socialism until I need it, then it's a necessity. Let's be crystal clear about what happened here. During Trump's first term, farmers got $28 billion in bailouts. That's more than NASA, more than children's health insurance, more than naval shipbuilding. $28 billion of taxpayer money to compensate for trade war damage that those same farmers supported. And here's the kicker. They're asking for it again. After voting for the same policies that created the problem in the first place. It's like setting your house on fire, calling the fire department, then lighting another match and expecting the same response. Meanwhile, these same folks oppose food stamps for families, healthcare subsidies for the poor, and student loan forgiveness. But farm subsidies? That's just good policy, apparently. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. You can't spend decades preaching about free markets and personal responsibility, then demand government intervention the moment your choices have consequences.
A very dire situation. September's a bonus. Harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red, and we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs, and we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers. and they're critical.
Hundreds of Arkansas farmers are asking for a government bailout.
0 bushels sold to China. Let that sink in. Historically, China bought 25% of America's soybean crop. Now it's 0. That's not market fluctuation. That's market destruction. And here's what's brutal about this situation. These farmers are writing letters to Trump, asking him to make soybeans a priority in trade negotiations. They're literally begging the guy who started this trade war to somehow fix it with more trade negotiations. But China has moved on. They've diversified their suppliers, locked in long-term contracts with Brazil and Argentina, and built supply chains that don't depend on American political stability. Why would they come back to a supplier that's proven unreliable and hostile? This is Business Strategy 101. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when that basket keeps threatening to dump your eggs. China learned that lesson. American farmers apparently did not. The tragedy here isn't that China stopped buying. The tragedy is that American farmers cheered for the policies that drove China away, then act shocked when economic reality kicked in.
I've heard about the soybean farmers as well, based off of the tariffs. I've seen the farmers in other red-led states suffering the consequences of these tariffs. And to them, I say they have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. We don't support socialism. This is a free market economy. They're over here looking for bailouts at the expense of American taxpayers. No one in this country is going to get a free pass. They should just work harder. And they should maybe cut back on expenses then. Maybe they should budget. Maybe they should stop eating out and having all this damn avocado.
I don't want the tariffs taken off. No. Because what I don't want is for the economy to get a little bit better and then have people thinking that he's some kind of brainiac Jesus when he's really eating paint chips. I want people that voted for this to feel the consequences of their racism, of their white supremacy, of their misogyny. Yes. Does that mean that some of us are going to be in it? Yes. But the reason we're here is because white people keep avoiding this goddamn issue. This needs to be addressed. We have never been a great nation for everybody except white people. I would rather deal with tariffs and expensive eggs and expensive gas and higher interest rates if it means that people in this country are treated the fucking same. Because I'm sick and tired of these white supremacist losers from the goddamn Confederacy treating people that don't look like me less than. Women, immigrants, black people, Muslims, everybody. But if a white man is a sexual predator that goes to Epstein Island, that's a felon, that's the most morally bankrupt piece of human garbage, somehow he's a hero and a patriot. And that's the fundamental problem with this goddamn country. And if we have to go into a recession to fix it, then so goddamn be it. Because I'm sick and tired of this shit. And I'm just a white dude and I'm pissed off. Imagine if you're black. Generation after generation after fucking generation of being treated less than by these fake-ass white supremacist Christians that say, love thy neighbor, while their fucking grandparents owned black people like pets because they were too goddamn lazy to do it themselves. Leave the fucking tariffs in. Let these poor people suffer.
This guy gets it. He's furious. And honestly, his anger makes complete sense. He's watching the same people who preach no handouts line up for government assistance the moment their own choices backfire. And his point about historical context hits hard. These are often the same communities that built wealth on systems of exploitation, then spent generations preaching personal responsibility to everyone else. Now, when their own economic decisions blow up in their faces, suddenly it's everyone else's responsibility to bail them out. The broader point about letting consequences play out is controversial but economically sound. If you keep bailing out people who make bad decisions, you're essentially rewarding failure and encouraging more bad decisions. Market forces exist for a reason. Yes, it's harsh. Yes, it will hurt real people. But so do the policies these farmers voted for. So does deporting hardworking immigrants. So does starting trade wars with your biggest customers. At some point, actions have to have consequences, or the cycle just continues.
Farmers, has your welfare check ran out yet? You still proud of your vote? Y'all out there picking that shit up out of the fields? You looking for workers? Trump's got them round up again? You trying to ship your grain to the other countries? Nobody's coming. The ships aren't moving. What's going on, farmers? You know, none of that shit's working out for y'all. It wasn't working out for you in 2016. Why the fuck you think it's working out for you now? Y'all still picking the fucking fields. You're still looking for fucking workers. You still can't ship your motherfucking grain. Nobody's fucking buying it because they've already bought it from other fucking places. There's no ships to haul it. You all are sitting up here looking for a fucking check, selling your motherfucking tractors and trailers, trying to maintain the note on your fucking farm. You're losing your motherfucking note on your farm. The president don't give a fuck. Y'all are fucked. And all y'all do is pick up the motherfucking shit that's rotting in your motherfucking fields, trying to figure out how the fuck did you get here. Well, let me give you a little advice. You got here by voting for that motherfucker, not once, but fucking twice. You didn't learn nothing the first time. You haven't learned anything the second time. You don't have to worry about learning anything the third fucking time because they're going to take your fucking farm.
This gentleman is absolutely savage, and he's not wrong. These farmers didn't just vote for Trump once. They voted for him twice, knowing full well what his policies did to agriculture during his first term. The farm bankruptcy numbers don't lie. During Trump's first presidency, farm bankruptcies hit their highest levels since the 1980s farm crisis. The data was public. The results were clear. And these farmers voted for more of the same. It's like watching someone touch a hot stove, get burned, then immediately touch it again while complaining about the burn. At what point does sympathy turn into frustration with willful ignorance? And his point about racism being expensive is spot on. When you make political decisions based on cultural resentment instead of economic reality, you pay economic prices. Trade wars aren't just policy disagreements. They're business relationships with real-world consequences. The brutal truth is that many of these farmers prioritized cultural grievances over their own economic interests. Now they're learning that global markets don't care about your political feelings.
Racism sure is expensive.
Tariffs are having a real impact right here in the Treasure State, with farmers and ranchers feeling it firsthand. Food systems moving out of the country, prices on food and tools going up, and broken trade relations are just a handful of the issues.
Sounds like you could use a little socialism in your life.
Nobody wants to do business with us, whether it's Japan, Australia, Europe, Paraguay, anybody. They don't want to do business with us because they have no idea what's going to happen.
I put this on everything I love. If given the opportunity to vote for them again, they would.
It's not just Montana farmers feeling the pressure. Data from Bloomberg shows 173 small farms across the country have filed for bankruptcy since President Trump took office.
Now, as they enter the fuck around and find out phase, we are going to be the ones paying for it. So this is a bittersweet moment.
Price is going to go up from moving outside the country, and the price is going to go up for increased labor costs, and the price is going to go up because of tariffs. So
it's kind of hard to feel bad for them. They wanted immigrants out of the country so bad that they did not think logically.
Good high quality food is going to become food of the rich.
Have the day you voted for.
Here's the reality check these farmers need to hear. Modern agriculture depends on immigrant labor, whether documented or not. This isn't political opinion, it's economic fact. American consumers want cheap food, but they won't do the backbreaking work required to produce it at those prices. So farmers rely on workers willing to do difficult jobs for wages that Americans won't accept. Remove those workers and the entire system collapses. But somehow these same farmers thought they could have their cake and eat it too. They wanted immigration crackdowns and cheap labor. They wanted to deport workers and maintain their profit margins. Basic math says that's impossible. Now they're discovering that good, high-quality food becoming food of the rich isn't just a threat. It's an inevitable outcome when you destroy your own labor force. You can't maintain industrial-scale agriculture with a handful of expensive domestic workers. The irony is perfect. The people who complained most about immigrants taking jobs are now desperately needing those same immigrants to save their businesses. Maybe those weren't jobs being taken. Maybe they were jobs that needed doing.
This Republican farmer in Florida is finding out the hard way. W is a lifelong strawberry farmer in Central Florida and a proud supporter. He lives in a deeply conservative area where stupid flags fly in the heat and stupid stickers cover just about every single mailbox. But now, W is quietly admitting that something's wrong because the immigration policies that he voted for, they're now destroying his farm. W says he supports the president, but he's struggling to stay afloat. And like most farmers, he relies on migrant labor, the exact kind of labor that's now disappearing thanks to the harsh immigration crackdowns from the guy he voted for. A lot of workers have left. The rest are hiding. And W says he's been forced to cut back because he doesn't have the workforce anymore. He used to hire a mix of undocumented workers and H-2A visa holders, but with the understandable fear of deportation growing and the cost of H-2A workers going up, he's stuck. He can't afford to bring in more help, and he won't risk hiring undocumented workers anymore. It's like, W, it's time to pack it up. If your farm needs cheap labor to survive, your farm shouldn't be around anymore. And of course, W says there needs to be an easier path to legalization for longtime immigrant workers. And it's like he still supports the Republican Party, even though they're the absolute last people to want that to happen. He says, they've been here, raised their families. I know there's bad seeds, but there's bad seeds everywhere. W, you voted the actual bad seeds into the White House. And they're the ones controlling the policies that are directly screwing you over. He says he fully supports the president, but he's worried about the future of his farm. Supporting a criminal over your own livelihood? Don't expect us to have any sympathy for you, W. He also says DeSantis and Trump might be riding them a little bit too hard. You think, W? That's quite the understatement. You wanted the crackdown, W, and now you're finding out the hard way.
I tell you what, I think the only people that have fucked around and found out harder than federal employees that voted for Trump is farmers that voted for Trump.
Meet W, the Florida strawberry farmer who perfectly embodies the consequences of voting against your own interests. This guy supported Trump's immigration crackdowns while running a business that completely depends on immigrant labor. That's not political strategy, that's economic suicide. W admits he used to hire undocumented workers, but now they're all gone or hiding. The H-2A visa workers are too expensive. He can't find American workers willing to do the job. His solution? He wants an easier path to legalization for immigrant workers, but he still supports the Republican Party, the same party that's absolutely opposed to immigration reform. This is cognitive dissonance at its finest. W wants the benefits of immigrant labor without the immigrants. He wants Republican policies without Republican consequences. He wants to have his strawberries and eat them too. The brutal reality is that W's business model was always dependent on exploiting vulnerable workers. Now that those workers have been driven away by the policies he supported, he's discovering that exploitation wasn't sustainable. Maybe that business model deserved to fail.
This farmer voted for Trump. Now his family farm is barely getting by. The Thomases took a 10% hit when the Trump administration abruptly cut $1 billion from two programs that supplied local produce and meat to schools and food banks across the country. Two things Republicans hate: schools and food banks. Said the financial insecurity makes my depression worse, Jacob said recently. He was trying to remain optimistic, reminding himself it was still earlier in the year. Just because one program went away, there's still plenty of time to pivot. Though the Thomases and many of their neighbors voted for Donald Trump last November, the consequences of this administration's wide-ranging cuts and uncertainty over tariffs have already had a profound impact on this hilly corner of northeast Kansas, one of the hardest hit states for agriculture during Trump's last trade war. It says for many, the pride that they felt when President Trump spoke of his love for farmers in his March 6th address to Congress has given way to a growing sense of helplessness, frustration, and anger. How did you not learn from his first term? It's like people have no memory. Their hate and fear of having a black woman for president could cause them to lose their family farm. And I bet they'd vote for him again if they could.
Luis, a lifelong Republican wheat farmer who voted for Trump not once, not twice, but all 3 times. She said she was thrilled to do it. She said that she wants him to fight for people just like her. But here's the reality that she's facing right now. Her farm now is gone, bankrupt. She had a government contract to sell 100% of her wheat to U.S. aid. That deal was vanished overnight. The buyers, gone. The money, gone. And here's where the irony cuts deep. Luis admits that 70% of her workforce were indeed undocumented immigrants. The very same people, the lives and livelihoods she voted to upend. And now they're not showing up to work. And without them, her business has collapsed. Luis is on TikTok now, literally about 5 videos, blaming Trump for not protecting farmers like her. But here's the thing. These policies were never designed to protect your farm, Luis. And if you are literally educated, You would have took 2 minutes to research and find that out for yourself. These policies were designed to make a point, no matter who got hurt. Even his own voters. So, Luis, actions have consequences. And sometimes, they come for you first.
Louise is the poster child for voting against your own economic interests. 3-time Trump voter, wheat farmer, government contracts, and now bankrupt because the very policies she cheered destroyed her business model. Here's what's mind-blowing. 70% of her workforce was undocumented immigrants. She built her business on their labor, then voted for policies designed to destroy their lives. That's not just economic stupidity, it's moral bankruptcy. And now she's on TikTok blaming Trump for not protecting farmers like her. But these policies were never designed to protect farmers. They were designed to appeal to cultural resentments, regardless of economic consequences. Louise had access to the same information we all did. She could have researched the economic impacts of deportation policies on agriculture. She could have looked at what happened during Trump's first term. Instead, she voted based on ideology and expected different results. The saddest part? She'll probably vote the same way again, because admitting she was wrong would mean confronting some uncomfortable truths about her own choices and priorities.
Right now, Donald Trump's tariffs on China are impacting farmers the most, and many of them have buyer's remorse for even voting for Donald Trump in the first place. One of the top products that is tariffed is the U.S. soybean, and U.S. soybean exports, according to CNN, are now subject to a total tariff of 135% because of the 10% tariff imposed in March, along with the 125% tariff announced last week. If you recall, back in 2018, the winner of the first U.S.-China trade war wasn't U.S. farmers, but rather Brazil, because Brazil became the world's leading soybean exporter. And since then, exports to China have grown 280%, while U.S. exports have remained flat. Many soybean farmers in the Midwest actually voted for Donald Trump. They come from states that are red states that voted for Donald Trump consistently, both in 2016 and in 2024. And Trump had long promised exemptions or support for farmers, but they haven't received any bailouts just yet. And some are now even having buyer's remorse because their businesses are going to suffer because they can't export the number of soybeans that they were before. As always, I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack, link to my bio, so subscribe for free and follow along for all the news.
Farmer who voted for Trump is Nicholas Gilbert, the dairy farmer in New York. He buys feed from Ontario, Canada for his cows. Gilbert was very shocked when he received his latest order. It came with an extra $2,200 tariff fee. He told the Atlantic news outlet, quote, "We have small margins. I had a contracted price on that grain delivered to my barn. It was supposed to be so much per ton, and they added that tariff right on top because it comes from a Canadian feed mill." This tariff surcharge came out of nowhere for him. Gilbert was very shocked because, as with many other Trump voters, he thought Trump's Canadian tariffs were paid by Canada. Gilbert told the news outlet, quote, "I'm not even sure it's legal. We contracted for the price on delivery. If your price of fuel goes up on your truck or it breaks down, that's not my problem. That's what the contract's for." Well, it is legal. And this guy is especially screwed because, unlike other companies, he can't raise his prices. While other companies can pass on to the consumers, Gilbert sells his milk through a farm co-op, so the prices are fixed. He also can't purchase livestock feed anywhere else. He told the Atlantic, first of all, there aren't any other suppliers that are nearby. And if he was to go with another company that's further away in the US, it would be even more expensive. So for now, he has to take the hit. He has to hope that things pan out. And Gilbert said, quote, "We're taking that right on the chin." He also said he's worried about the price of fertilizer and farm equipment going up. So I guess now he figured out how tariffs work.
Nicholas Gilbert, the dairy farmer who just learned that tariffs aren't paid by foreign countries. This is almost comical if it weren't so tragic. Gilbert had a contract for Canadian feed at a specific price. Then boom, an extra $2,200 tariff fee that he has to pay. His response? "I'm not even sure it's legal." Buddy, it's not only legal, it's exactly what you voted for. This is the fundamental misunderstanding that drove Trump's electoral success. Millions of Americans thought tariffs were somehow paid by foreign governments. They thought it was free money that would magically punish other countries while helping American businesses. The reality is that tariffs are taxes on imports paid by domestic companies and passed on to consumers through higher prices. Gilbert is learning this lesson the hard way, stuck between rising costs he can't control and fixed prices he can't raise. What's particularly brutal for Gilbert is that, unlike other businesses, he can't just pass the costs to customers. He sells through a co-op at fixed prices. He's taking the full hit of his own political choices with no way to recover.
I'm not wishing any harm on these people. I wish they had paid attention, wish they had listened to other people before they cast their...
New numbers have just come out that actually, in some way, make me happy, in some ways make me sad. See, in the first quarter of 2025, bankruptcies for farmers exceeded the 2024 total for the year. And in the second quarter, according to new reporting that just came out, they doubled last year's number. So the farmers that overwhelmingly voted for the administration we have are filing bankruptcies at a record pace. The last time farm bankruptcies were this high was during Trump's last term. For somebody that claims to love farmers, he sure just consistently hurts them. In fact, the last time it was this high was between 2018 and 2019. You would think maybe it was during 2020 and all that craziness, but no. This is all pre-pandemic Trump wonderful economic policies affecting farmers.
These bankruptcy numbers tell the real story. Farm bankruptcies in the first quarter of 2025 exceeded the entire 2024 total. By the second quarter, they doubled last year's numbers. This isn't gradual decline, this is economic collapse. And here's the kicker. The last time farm bankruptcies were this high was during Trump's first term, between 2018 to 2019. Not during the pandemic. Not during some external crisis. During Trump's great economy that supposedly loved farmers. For someone who claims to champion rural America, Trump has consistently presided over agricultural disaster. His trade wars destroyed export markets. His immigration policies eliminated the workforce. His tariffs raised input costs. The pattern is clear and predictable. Yet somehow, rural communities keep voting for more of the same. It's like watching someone repeatedly hit themselves with a hammer while complaining about headaches. The cause and effect couldn't be more obvious, but they keep swinging. This is what happens when political identity becomes more important than economic reality. People will literally vote themselves into bankruptcy rather than admit they were wrong.
Next up on the FAFO tour, Texas farmers. One day, these farms in Texas had hundreds of workers tending the fields and the livestock, and the very next day, all of those workers are gone. That's what has happened in Texas. And entire fields of crops are being left to rot because there's no one to pick them. Livestock, like dairy cows, that have to be milked twice a day when they're lactating, there's no one to tend to them. These farms are going to go under. And it's not going to just affect Texas farmers. This is going to affect the breadbasket of the nation very soon. Most of these farmers voted for the felon-in-chief. And now they are reaping what they have sown, quite literally. Is America great yet? And all of these red-faced, conservative MAGA folk who have complained for years about these illegal immigrants are taking our jobs. It's funny, they're not lining up to go work out in these fields for that low pay out in the hot sun. And what's unspoken is many of these farmers and many of these racists thought that we black Americans were going to rush out there because they have come to believe their own racist stereotypes and lies about black people. And they did. They thought we were going to line up to go work in those fields. Ha ha, tricks are for kids. Our ancestors already been there and done that, and they were not paid at all. They were forced to work in fields, whipped and tortured. This is a new day. And so I suggest everyone who has ever complained about illegal immigrants taking our jobs, you get you some 100 SPF sunscreen and get your ass out there in the fields if you want produce, period, in your grocery stores. And think about this. This is going to have a ripple effect. Think about all the businesses that are vendors and customers of these farms. There's no one to buy fertilizer, farm implements, pesticides. Many restaurants that are farm to table, where are they going to get their meat and their produce? Racism is expensive, and it is going to be the ruin of this nation. It's already playing out. So again, I ask, MAGA, are we great again yet?
This analysis hits every key point. Texas farms with hundreds of workers one day, 0 workers the next, crops rotting in fields, livestock abandoned. This is what securing the border actually looks like in practice. The speaker's point about racist assumptions is particularly sharp. Many of these farmers actually believed that black Americans would rush to fill these agricultural jobs once immigrants were gone. That's not just economic ignorance. It's racist fantasy based on slavery-era stereotypes. The reality is that agricultural work is backbreaking, dangerous, and poorly paid. Americans of any background generally won't do these jobs at the wages farmers can afford to pay. The entire system was built on exploiting vulnerable immigrant workers who had no other options. Now that those workers are gone, the whole house of cards is collapsing. And yes, it will have ripple effects throughout the economy. Fertilizer companies, equipment dealers, farm-to-table restaurants, entire supply chains built around agriculture are going to suffer. The speaker's challenge is perfect. If you spent years complaining about immigrants taking jobs, now's your chance to prove Americans want those jobs. Grab some sunscreen and get to work.
And when are y'all gonna go out to Texas and all these other areas that need work and start working the fields, since you're a patriotic American? I'm waiting to see when that's going to happen, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Dear God, if you've never listened before, Texas is reporting that numerous farms are shutting down. They have no workforce to bring in the harvest. So what does that mean? We're going to have less food available. What does less food mean? Higher prices for what is available. Even the cattle has been left unattended. Now they're gathering people up to make a workforce. Don't even doubt that for a second that that's what they're working on here. However, there's no people now. Now, as we come into fall and everything is ready to be picked and processed, we are in a massive FO moment for the nation. So if you have not stocked up on basic food items that will help you survive, God help you. Because you're going to need it. I don't know what more to say.
Watch this little 1-minute clip and then let's talk afterwards about this farmer, Scott Brown.
Scott Brown said they are struggling to afford the cost that is needed just to take care of the farm.
The prices that we're getting now are prices like they were when we were children, and what it costs for us to farm is astronomical now. I mean, the price of a combine when we were kids was, in the 20,000s, and now it's 100,000.
I farm 800 acres by myself. I can't afford any help. I farm with paid-for equipment. All my tractors are 50 years old, and I can't hardly make this deal work. How's the guys farming 5 and 10,000 with 20 hands and $1 million combines and $1 million drills going to make it work?
But for Brown, there's something that rounds out all the issues that they are facing: the tariffs.
I think the tariffs are the ice cream on the cake of a perfect storm. When you try to sell a product, okay, U.S. soybeans leaving New Orleans without the tariff to China are cheaper than Brazilian soybeans at the current market. But when you put the tariff on top of them, Brazilian beans are cheaper.
So how can this be fixed?
In the short term, they have no choice but to mail us a check. I don't know a farmer that likes the check program. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. Nobody wants to lose everything.
That sounds a lot like socialism, Scott, and we just don't do that in this country. Now, we don't help people, Scott, but I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to pray for you, Scott. Dear God, thoughts and prayers. Amen. you're going to get the same bullshit that you give little children, God's children, when they're fucking murdered and identified by their dental records. Thoughts and prayers. Scott, there's just nothing we can do for you, man. We just can't. This sounds like a mental health issue. That's what it sounds like. It's actually not the farm equipment because, you know, the farm equipment doesn't move itself, Scott. It's actually people that do it. So it actually sounds like it's your problem. I mean, I would probably we'll get some help. But we had to cut that funding for mental health, Scott, because, you know, we really have to balance the budget.
Scott represents everything wrong with this situation. He's struggling with the same economic problems that millions of Americans face. Rising costs, stagnant revenues, aging equipment. But when regular people face these challenges, the answer from folks like Scott is always personal responsibility and stop asking for handouts. Scott admits he needs taxpayer money to survive, but frames it as somehow different from other forms of assistance. Nobody wants to take taxpayer dollars, but nobody wants to go broke. That's literally what every person needing government help could say. The speaker's response is harsh but justified. Scott and his community have consistently voted against social programs, healthcare expansion, education funding, and infrastructure investment. They've opposed help for others while demanding special treatment for themselves. And the hypocrisy runs deeper. Scott complains about equipment costs and labor shortages, but these are the predictable results of the policies he supported. Tariffs raised equipment prices. Deportations eliminated his workforce. Trade wars destroyed his export markets. The thoughts and prayers response is perfectly calibrated. It's exactly what shooting victims get from Republican politicians. Empty gestures instead of actual solutions.
You know, the autistic kids that can't get their help because the Department of Education was dismantled, you didn't seem to care about them. Women that have a 52% increased mortality, like in Texas because Roe versus Wade was overturned, you didn't really care about them. Officer Sitnick that died the next day. The officers that have long-term disabilities that were beaten with American flagpoles on January 6th, you know, because the white man's a patriot. Somehow you didn't care about them. Don't care about people getting due process. You really don't care about anybody except for yourself. Don't care about people losing 16 million losing Medicaid, Medicare. Don't care about food or SNAP benefits being taken away where people are starving. You rejoice the Gulf of America because, you know, you're a patriot, you're America, you got guns. Yeehaw! So thoughts and prayers, shove your cross right up your ass, Scott. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And all you have done is given a shit about yourself, Scott. It is who you are. It is who you've always been. Me, me, me. The party of selfishness. You literally only voted for yourself. And every 4 years, you ask yourself the same question. First, are you Republican? Check, check, check. Own the libs, baby. I want universal health care. I want you to have a living wage. I want you to be able to sell your crops. I want you to be able to retire. I want you to be able to sell your farm to your generation. But you know the difference is you couldn't vote for the black woman because you're racist, Scott. You voted for the modern day Klan leader because he was the white man. Felonies, insurrection, rape, sexual assault, white supremacy, very fine people. Grab them by the PUSSY, going into girls' locker rooms, going on Epstein Island. No, there's nothing I can do. Sorry. Hey, no one's perfect, but my farm, give me free money. Thoughts and prayers, Scott. Hey, thoughts and prayers. I'm sure if you just pray hard enough, Scott, Jesus will send you money because that's how thoughts and prayers work, Scott. So how about this, Scott? I have a deal for you. When you get off your ass and actually do something to save the lives of innocent women and children and men that are shot by schools, then we'll have a conversation. Then maybe one day you will actually hear the word of God talking to you instead of what you want to hear. How about that, Scott? Does that sound like a plan? Or is that just a bridge too far? Because then you're going to have to get a shit about somebody else. You have yourself a white day, Scott. Thoughts and prayers.
So we're now seeing multiple farm closures in Texas. With all of the discussions that were had about the effects of the deportation on farms and the service industry. We're talking planting season, which is all around March, April. The season where you're taking care of your plant, you're making sure there's no, weeding, bugs eating it, all of the things, birds, rabbits, all of that. So you got to take care of that. And now we're in harvest season, very near harvest season. But there's nothing, no executive order, nothing to remedy this, when the remedy should have happened on or around May, latest June. So all of these farms are now closing down because of this, because there's no one to harvest. There was no one taking care of the harvest, the plants, our food, the food we need to eat, our food. There's no one taking care of it. And guess what? That means that we have to import, which means we have to pay more because there are high tariffs. This is beyond insane. So all of the executive orders that have been penned, that could not have been one of them. Because it's very difficult now to reverse this when these farms are closing. I am just sick to my stomach at whoever is doing this math, because I really would like to sit with them and go, where did you go to school? And even if you're very intelligent and you're doing this purposefully, it is the poorest amongst us that's going to suffer the most from this. Because these people don't have to worry about food. They're good. If the plan is to crash the dollar and do all of these things, the poorest amongst us are the ones that's going to suffer the consequences.
This woman understands the bigger picture. Farm closures in Texas aren't just a regional problem. They're a national crisis that will affect food prices and availability for everyone. Her timeline analysis is spot on. Problems that needed solutions in March or April are now unsolvable in harvest season. You can't reverse months of neglect with executive orders. Plants don't wait for politicians to figure out labor policy. And she's right about the economic insanity. America will have to import more food at higher prices because of tariffs, while domestic production collapses due to labor shortages. It's a perfect storm of bad policy creating the worst possible outcomes. The racial dimension she highlights is crucial. The same people called lazy criminals and rapists are the ones whose labor kept America's food system functioning. Now that they're gone, the whole system is falling apart. Maybe they weren't the problem after all. Her point about consumerism is also key. When marginalized communities withdraw their economic participation, either by force or choice, it creates massive ripple effects throughout the economy.
Now, here's the other point we need to take into consideration here. When you are calling these people lazy and criminals and rapists and all of the things, how the farmers doing without them? How the food doing without them? What's going on in the farm without them? The thing is, you guys like to call us names: lazy, rapists, murderers, all of the things we are. We are the worst of the worst. We being brown, we being black. But when ish needs to get done and we ain't around, what now? This is just one of the many fails that's going to come about. One of the many fails. And a big part of it, it started from the bottom up, but trust me, when it starts going up to all of the 300,000 black women losing their job and all of the people they're taking out of work, that's who we be. When y'all calling us names and saying we're lazy, we this, we that. As bad as this is, and how many people got deported, and how many of us lost our jobs in the interim, this is also showing who we are and what our capacity is and what we actually bring to the table. Including, let's not forget, in consumerism, when we decide we're done with a place. Because we buy, we keep this afloat. So it's heart-wrenching to see at this juncture, all of these farms closing down. Which this is going to make food so expensive. It is already going to make food is already going to be very expensive. All of the farmers that can't export, that now they can't export beef because China's buying beef and pork and stuff like that from Australia. They can't export soybeans, so they're going to have to try to push as much soybean here. And soybean is not something we eat in a large amount. Asian countries use soybean more than we do. And now they're getting their soybean from, where is it, Brazil. If there was a math class, if there was an actual test, this is a great fail. And you know what it is? This is not I told you so, or look how, because this ain't great for none of us. Ain't one of us all happy about this, and because we are all hurting from this. I just shared a video with this guy. This man is walking all around town looking for a particular item that is from China. And all of the stores he's going to, the price is higher. And he gets to the store, and this one store, and this person is explaining to him it is higher because of tariffs, because this is an imported good. And the man says, and I quote, according to the person who posted the video, I should say, because I didn't hear it directly, "Oh, this is you guys trying to sabotage the president because you're supposed to eat the cost." Now, in that sentence alone, the realization that this person has no idea how business work. How long do you think people can eat the cost? How long do you think they're going to let their profit margin deplete? How long? They're going to do one of three things. They're going to close stores down if they have more than one store. They're going to let go of staff. It's called overhead. Or they're going to raise the prices. And they could still do all three of these things. So who's losing? We are. Next time, please do some bloody research, yeah?
The woman looking for Chinese products and being told businesses should eat the cost of tariffs perfectly encapsulates the ignorance driving these policies. She actually believes stores should absorb massive price increases out of patriotic duty rather than pass them on to consumers. This isn't how business works. Companies have three options when costs rise: raise prices, reduce staff, or close locations. Often they do all three. The idea that businesses should just sacrifice profit margins indefinitely to protect politicians from the consequences of their policies is pure fantasy. The speaker's frustration is completely understandable. We're all paying the price for other people's willful ignorance about basic economics. The same voters who demanded these policies are now shocked by their predictable results and want everyone else to subsidize their mistakes. This is the broader tragedy of populist economics. It sounds good in rallies, but falls apart when it meets mathematical reality. Tariffs, deportations, and trade wars have costs. Those costs don't disappear just because you don't want to pay them. The final plea for research resonates deeply. If people had done even basic homework about trade policy and labor economics, we wouldn't be in this mess. But that would require admitting that complex problems don't have simple solutions.